You're tuned to Radio Kidnappers, the voice of Hawke's Bay. This is a program called
The Wonderful World of Wardini Books.
Here we are again. Can you believe another week has flown by?
No, it's quite incredible, isn't it?
Got the wonderful Lou in the studio, and it's almost not quite business as usual, but you're open again, which is great.
Yeah, pretty much is business as usual. You just got to, abide by the rules.
Yeah,
and we all know what they are.
And are people abiding by the rules when they come in the door?
Yeah, mostly. I would say there's only like 0.5%, and it's mostly when people have just forgotten their mask.
Yeah, that's great to see, isn't it?
Yeah.
As everyone who plays by the rules will be out of this, and we'll be going to concerts and all that sort of stuff.
That'd
again.
be nice.
That's like the good old days.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got 3 fabulous books to look at again today, and the first one is called After the Tampa.
Yeah. Do you remember the Tampa rescuing some refugees?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah. So this is the story of Abbas Nazari, and he was 7 when the Tampa rescued him and his family from this rather unseaworthy vessel. So we begin in Afghanistan with 7-year-old Abbas, and he describes his sort of mountain valley Sungjoy as where he lives. And although television, electricity, plumbing had come to most, the cities of Afghanistan, not where he lived.
No.
And his people are called Hazara. They're Hazara Muslims, and they'd been persecuted for years, decades, millennia, and the Taliban were at it again.
Yeah.
And the Taliban were sweeping through villages, burning them down, killing the people, ethnically cleansing, all these things that you see on the news, and you go, oh my God, that's terrible. But until you read a very, very personal account like this reminds you that these are real living, breathing people, not just a person on a boat in a village. So when he was 7, now there are 5 children in the family, mum and dad, and the youngest is a baby in arms, under 1-year-old, I think 9 months old. And the dad sees this coming, sees the sweep of the cleansing and the danger coming towards his family. And they talk about it a lot, and eventually they decide we're leaving. And they are going to try to get... They go to Pakistan, first of all, in the backs of terrible trucks and things, bribing officials at each border. They get to Indonesia. They stay with somebody that they know there from their community, and eventually they are getting on a boat, and this is where the story begins, to try and get to Christmas Island, because if you can get to Christmas Island, you can claim refugee status with the Australian government, and they have to listen to you. So, long story short, they get on the boat. There are 300 and something of them, tiny crappy boat. There's a terrible, terrible storm. The ship is unseaworthy. How they survive, they don't know. It's just they're all praying. It's just the most incredibly awful thing. They're all sick. There are pregnant women on the boat. It's just incredibly awful. They're fleeing for their lives. And this Norwegian shipping vessel picks them up, and they're so, so grateful. And the captain's lovely. And the Indonesian authorities are saying, well, Captain, don't bring them here. And the Australians are saying, don't bring them here. And he's like, well, maritime law tells me I have to go to the nearest port. That happens to be Christmas Island. So, and the refugees, there's Abbas's dad and some of the other sort of older men go and lobby with the captain and say, we really need to get to Christmas Island. And he's like this, and he's turning the ship around, and he just makes the decision, I've got to get you guys to Christmas Island. The port authorities there won't let them dock. The Australians are saying, no, we don't want these people. There's nowhere for them to stay.
It's awful, isn't it?
They have to open a couple of the containers on the ship. The sun is beating down, and they're just getting skin conditions and malnutrition, and a couple of the older men go on hunger strike. They've got nothing to eat anyway. It's just like stuff with worms in, because the ship wasn't geared up for 300 extra people.
Yeah.
And the Australian government then say, these people claiming refugee status have taken the captain hostage, and the captain's like, no, they haven't. We are just trying to dock so that they can get some help here. We need medical assistance. And they send like the Australian SAS equivalent, with guns. These people have just been running from the Taliban. How do you think they're going to react to people with big guns? Yeah, it's just the most incredible story, and you just go, wow. But eventually, Helen Clark's government says, we'll take some of these people. And Abbas and his family are resettled in Christchurch. And he is so grateful for the opportunity that he's been given, and mostly to his parents. I mean, it's dedicated to Mum and Dad. Thank you for giving up your today for our tomorrow, because it's just
lovely,
incredible what they gave up.
Yeah.
And his mother's so homesick. It's the most incredible story, Ken. Everybody should read this book. And he got a Fulbright scholarship to go and study at Harvard, I think he went to. You know, so it's going from no running water, no television. There's a gorgeous bit where they're settled in Christchurch, and the kids are in the garden, and they're watching the kids next door, and there's a big fence, and they can just see these kids sort of like flying above the fence, and they're like, what is that? And it's a trampoline, but they'd never met a trampoline before. And then the kids next door go, come on, have a go. And they spend the loveliest afternoon.
Sounds like a story with a happy ending, but I mean, we think we're doing tough on level 4. That's doing
Honestly,
it tough, isn't it? You know,
if you think it's hard putting a mask on to go into a shop, just read this story and get yourself sorted.
It sounds like it might be particularly depressing, but it does have a happy ending. But it is one of those stories that, yes, you should read.
Absolutely should read it. And it's not depressing because it's human resilience as well. And the kindness that's in there. I mean, there's something, even when they get to New Zealand, there's the most appalling racism.
Yeah.
And that family then, of course, there's the Christchurch mosque terror attack. There's the earthquakes. It's not finished for them. But there's also the best of people in there as well.
What a courageous man.
Oh, he's just such a little boy, when it's happening, and he has to go through so much with his siblings and his parents, and the love in that family is incredible. So yeah,
like you say, I mean, for the mum and the dad to say, let's do it.
Yeah, for the sake of their children.
Fantastic. Let's hope the next one is on a slightly lighter note, perhaps. the Harlem Shuffle.
This is Harlem in the 1960s, and it's such, Colson Whitehead's brilliant. He's written. It's gone out of my head now. He's won the Pulitzer for at least one of his stories in the past, and I really like his writing. He's one of those writers, a bit like Patricia Grace, that writes so much in so few words. He's got a really sort of spare, beautiful way of looking at the world. And in this book, we are with Ray Carney as our main character. And he has a furniture shop in 125th Street in New York, and he is only slightly bent when it came to being crooked. So Ray Carney doesn't think that he's a criminal. His father was a terrible criminal, and abusive to him and to his mother, and he doesn't hold his father in much high esteem. But that was his example all the way through, and he was like, I'm not going to be like that. He's got a lovely wife from an upstanding community family, and couple of children, and he's aspirational, wants a bigger flat for them, and his wife's family don't like him because he's one of those street hoods sort of thing. And it's him and his cousin Freddie, who is really quite crooked, and they've grown up together, and Freddie's quite the cute little character, but he's in and out of huge amounts of trouble. And it's really Freddie dragging Ray into all this trouble. So he's got the furniture shop. He occasionally fences a gently used item. But Freddie turns up one day and said, I just happened to mention your name. I was under a bit of pressure with, the latest gangster in town, and I maybe said that you would fence all the things. And so it's really a tale of, again, incredible. It's like apartheid, really, in 1960s Harlem, because these characters are all black characters. And even within their own community, like Elizabeth's family, really looks down on that poor black guy, and it's all these little, these little bits of racism and prejudice, and how he can't go and sell his stuff to the white dealers because they won't deal with a black guy, and there were race riots in Harlem in the 60s as well, and looting, and it's like, well, this is still happening, where's the progress here?
None.
And
is it a novel, or is it?
Yes, a novel. Yeah,
a novel based on fact, or?
He would have done his research,
yes,
definitely. And you really feel that you can smell the streets, and it's the heat, because it's a lot of it is in the summer in New York, and the heat, it's sticky and it's smelly and it's dirty, and it's the incredible city that it is. The city's a character in itself, really, but it's the way that he writes is quite funny. So Ray's just got this sort of, I'm not a bent kind of person. I'm quite honest, really, and you read it and you go, you're mega bent. There's all sorts going on in your life. And there's the hotel in the Hotel Teresa that they rip off. There's a heist at the Hotel Teresa, but that's where all the really big black performers of the day would go and stay in that area because some of the white hotels didn't want them.
Yeah.
Even though they were the, really big names.
They were the headline act, yeah.
I'm going to say like Duke Ellington or somebody like that,
Yeah.
but I can't remember. But,
Sammy Davis Jr., good example.
Yeah. We like you when we like you, but not...
Yeah, so you can't eat in that restaurant,
Yeah, I know, and your blood boils, really.
Oh, it does.
But it's great. Yeah.
I love the way you described it. It must have been a good book that impressed you so much that you can smell the streets.
Yeah.
That's great. And our last book is called Pony.
Pony, and this is not the real cover, this is an advanced reading copy. And this is R.J. Palacio. It's a chapter book for children. And R.J. Palacio wrote Wonder, which was turned into a movie. And that was about a little boy who had some genetic condition that meant his face didn't look like a conventional face. And all the things that he had to go through. And this is not like that at all. And I really like when an author can write something beautiful again and amazing again, but it's completely different. So this is set in America in the 1800s, and there's a little boy called Silas Bird, and he lives out in the middle of nowhere, really, with his father. And his father teaches... Silas is a bit different to other kids. He has this... You would call it an imaginary friend called Mittenwall, which I just think is the most gorgeous, and he manifests as sort of a teenage lad who's a bit older than Silas. But he'd been there ever since Silas can remember. And Silas's mum died in childbirth, so it's just him and his dad. And Silas has this ability to see things. And as you get through the book, you realise that he's really seeing ghosts. But he goes to school, and he doesn't know when he's a tiny, tiny 6-year-old that they're like, "Who are you talking to?" "Oh, Mittenwall, he's my friend there." And they're like, "You're bonkers," and he gets bullied mercilessly, and one of the teachers ends up beating him, and he's homeschooled from then on, and they look at the stars, and he says he knows things that kids don't normally know, but he doesn't know a lot of stuff that kids do know. So it's quite the dichotomy. And one night, bang on the door in the middle of the night, horsemen come up and say to Pa, who's Martin Bird, "You're Mac Boat and we need you." He does daguerreotypes, a photographer, and he's a bootmaker and all sorts of things, and he's got incredible skills. "We need you for some kind of nefarious activity." And he's like, "No, I'm not coming." And eventually they say, "Well, we were going to take you and your kid." "Okay, well, if you leave the kid at home, I'll come with you." And Silas panics, and after Dad's gone, even though he's been told to stay put, and he... the pony, that's where the pony comes in. So there's a pony that was with this group of people that was obviously meant for the little boy to go on. And after Dad's gone, the pony comes back, and Silas sees this as a sign. And so he gets on the pony, and Mittenwall is going, "No, Pa said to stay home, this is terrible." And he's always been terrified of the forest because he can hear things in it. But head down on the pony, and they rush through the forest. And they meet this guy in the forest who's... a sheriff or a ranger or something like that, and he's on the trail of these bad guys too, and Silas convinces him that he needs to go and look for his father. And so then there's this massive adventure with the pony, who has this immediate bond with Silas, and Silas Bird, who sees things that other people don't, and Mittenwall, who is just the most incredible friend to Silas. And there's loads of stuff going on, and the people that they meet, and the things that he can hear, and the beauty of the writing. It's such a wonderful book.
How do you keep your head around all those characters?
Yeah,
you get a book that impressed you, obviously.
Well, they come alive to you, don't they?
Yes.
So you feel like you've met them.
Yeah.
So it'd be like me going home and talking, "Oh, Ken said this today."
that's
They're as real to me as you are, Ken.
And out of 10, what would you rate that?
Oh, it's 10 out of 10. She's done it again, R.J. Palacio. She's amazing. So I would say that this is it's quite sophisticated in places, but easy to read.
Is it a children's book?
It's a children's book, but it's one of those children's books I would imagine that a lot of grown-ups read Wonder as well, even though they're designed with sort of 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds in mind. It's one of those books that anyone can read. And they've got sort of examples of the daguerreotypes all the way through. Yeah.
All right, well, as always, if you want any of these fabulous books, where do we get them?
Oh, Wardini Books.
My pleasure.
Great.
As always, you look after yourself. We'll talk at the same time, same place next week.
Cool. Thanks, Ken.